Hello everybody, Michael here with the Haunted Library. Let's remember that the Rainwater Killer is a Haunted Library exclusive series. And if you haven't been really paying too close attention to it, or you just decided to tonight with episode 6, I really encourage you to go back to the first episode, which actually started with Dead Lost. Now, in the beginning, when I started this series, I made a promise to my subscribers that I would continue to implement short horror stories to the people who didn't quite like a, detective / serial killer type story. It's not for everybody. I believe if more people would give this series an actual chance, they'd like it. But unfortunately, the series isn't quite getting the attention that I would like at this point. But I'm not going to give up. Anybody that's following it still that is kind of confused on some characters, some killings, go back to season 1. Go back to episode 1. Go back to Dead Lost. That's where you're going to find out all your answers and connect all the dots all the way up until episode 6. It is kind of hard to follow the story whenever I'm implementing other stories in between. Everybody's got their own type of memory, and I understand that. I just want everybody to be right on key with what's going on in this most important series. Because at the end of the day, at this point in time, the Rainwater Killer is the most important thing that is happening at the Haunted Library. I do expect it to get rather big, and that's my hope. So I would like everybody to be right on tap when it comes to this series. And if that means starting over, go ahead. The first few episodes, I believe, were only 6 or 7 minutes long, and now they're averaging about 8 to 10 minutes. It's not going to take up a whole lot of your time. Now, having said that, without further ado, let's continue on with tonight's episode, shocking episode, should I say, of The Rainwater Killer, episode 6. What do we know about Shane Wallace? I asked at the round table. I had woke this morning to the news of another murder, courtesy of the Rainwater Killer. The body count was now at 6, and today we had been sent rainwater vials from the Marshall shooting and Mr. Wallace's murder. Lutz was directly across from me as usual. 37-year-old Detective Mills Larson, who had joined the force yesterday, transferring from Virginia, relocating to New York, was with us too this morning. 43-year-old white male, Larson began, scanning his notebook, has a family back south who we have notified. Seems as though he was attacked and kidnapped while walking his dog outside the apartment complex he lives in. Dog was found wandering the streets the next morning. Skid marks were also found near the dog. Apparently, the dog didn't stray too far from its owner. Do we know anything about how this rather large man was stuffed in the back seat of a car without any witnesses? Lutz asked, while writing in his notepad. Skid marks couldn't be traced to any tire that is conclusive, right? No witnesses, Larson confirmed. It was raining, I said, weighing in. Raining hard, guys. Also, I think our guy owns his own car. I think he simply hitched a ride with the Marshalls, posing as a hobo or a drifter. It was an easy kill from the back seat. It was basically just a need to kill, and apparently he couldn't find any other victims, so he just hitched a ride on a street, in this case under a bridge, and got lucky with 2 elderly people that were nice and had a good heart. Lutz looked up at me, lifting his brow. Now I know why I called you up here in the first place, he said. Hey, how many people do you guys see outside walking around in a thunderstorm on a normal basis? I continued. Back south where I come from, not many. Now downtown New York, sure. But this was a back road and it was raining heavy, guys. Our guy has an advantage in some of these killings. He's operating under the cover of heavy rain. Can't you see what's going on here? He's taken full advantage of this. Whether the rain is some type of sick obsession with him or if he's got some type of past trauma, it's still working to his advantage. Everybody else is inside, or they're in their cars driving. I have a feeling Mr. Wallace was probably trying to get home, and he got caught. Wrong place, Wrong time. It's a valid point, added Larson. Lutz nodded, looking back down, continuing his notes. Yes, it is a good point, he said. I took off my glasses. Look, we have 6 victims. Larson, I'd like you to work on the forensics side here. I want to be out in the streets doing the dirty work. John, this is your station. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Lutz smiled. Hey, I asked you to come to New York on a whim because of your track record, and you did. As far as I'm concerned, this is your show. I nodded. Body was found in a large trash can downstairs, Larson went on, and a large black plastic bag, as you know, headless. We haven't located the head yet. Larson, you know I need to eat lunch soon, right? Lutz muttered, joking. I nodded and shook my head. I had already been briefed on all this earlier, but we were going further into details. I want that bag sent to forensics, I said. Wherever he killed the victim, there had to be a ton of blood, considering the severed head. There's no cleaning that room up, if it was a room. Even outside on the concrete, that's going to be hard to get up. They both nodded. Fiber came back on the Marshall shooting, Larson said. Oh? I said. Do tell. Well, it's a triexta fiber, he said. Not a nylon fiber. This type of fiber did not match the Marshall's car, so we're assuming it belongs to our man from his surroundings. Interesting, I mumbled. Let's find out where these types of fibers were manufactured and what exactly they were used for. Yes, sir, Larson said. Was there absolutely nothing found in the woods in Oklahoma? He asked me. And I shook my head. We recovered some tracks, but that's absolutely it. And as you both know, Nobles was butchered. The boot prints that were pulled from the mud seem to match a style of jungle combat boot. Now, these type of boots can be used in jungle warfare or wet conditions, not surprisingly, as they repel the rain. What do you know? But what sticks out here is the type of boot print. It's older and the manufacturer no longer makes these boots. They're discontinued. Now, according to some professionals that I spoke to, they say that these boots are about 10 years old. Now, this is 2019. Was our man in the military 10 years ago and had these boots put back? Larson smiled widely. Hey, I was in the military 10 years ago, but they're not my boots. I shook my head. Yeah? Prove it. Lutz cracked a smile. Don't come in if you don't have pizza, Lutz yelled. An officer had a box in his hand the size of a small trash can. Addressed to you, detective, he said. I stared at him funny as he set the box down in front of me. Took me a minute to realize. It was the Rainwater killer's handwriting, and it was in fact addressed to me personally here at the station. That's what I was afraid of. That's either a lot of rainwater vials or the boots of the killer, Lutz said, grinning. I kept a straight face as I began to open the box, perplexed that this insane madman was now making this personal. The stench hit me as I opened the flaps. I saw the hair first, and then the severed lower half of the neck. I gagged and went to the trash can, the aroma of rotting flesh filling the room. Lutz and Larson stood and eventually walked over as I heaved. Oh, dear God, Lutz said, covering his mouth. Larson, get that shit out of here. Larson picked up the box that contained the head of Shane Wallace and exited the room.